since this is in theory educational.
Well, well, that would be for the students to work on as a exercise.
All right, let's
Um,
see. Oh, okay,
okay.
cool, cool. We're in business.
So, so it looks to me like uh, it looks like they must have updated the Vassal module partially.
Right, they've added the expansion on the southern map,
Have
but it
the
doesn't look like
expansion
they updated
map,
the
but we
turn
don't
track.
have it exactly, and so
Okay.
the charts that we have apparently aren't completely current. And so if I look at charts and I scroll, I'm hoping there'll be a time chart on here. No, there's not a time chart. Wow, oh, turn record track. Okay, I'm gonna open that. Okay, so if you take the downloaded turn record track from, Battles from the Age of Reason,
From the
it is
Google side. Okay.
from the Google site. It is exactly the same as what I'm showing here in my printed material from the expansion kit.
Okay.
And
So
if
the
you
stuff
look at
that's on the
that, you'll
website is
see this
correct, but this particular thing in the Vassal module is not.
looks like that for sure is different.
Okay.
So that's the one effect of fog is it can cause the end turn to happen earlier, which makes perfect sense. And then, and I'm still trying to work through this a little bit. There's another layer here that says, and again, this would probably be the same if you downloaded it from the website. It says fog hexes do not block line of sight.
Mm-hmm.
When an artillery unit fires at a target unit at a range of 6 or more hexes, and either the artillery unit or the target unit or both is in a fog hex, the artillery uses a smaller fire multiplier. And if you look at the, the fire multiplier chart, once you get to 6 and beyond, there's in
Oh, I see.
small
They have a little.
other numbers
Yes.
there.
Okay. That's very
So
hard
this
to
is
read. Yeah.
obviously a very light sort of mist.
Right.
But it means that, once you've gone through 600 yards of it, it's actually starting to get to be challenging to make out what you're doing.
What you're doing and who you're shooting. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, so that is it's a very subtle thing, it looks like. Other than kind of the end turn thing, which seems like, at least in the early going, probably has a pretty big impact on end turn. Looks like. Okay, so that was fog. That was a concern you had.
Yes. Okay. So that makes sense then. So 'cause otherwise, when I was looking through it, now I did buy Prague, so I do have the expansion stuff. But
Okay, so you should have the
yeah,
written version of this too.
yeah, I do. But I grabbed the rule book thinking that there'd be something more in there about the scenarios because I was trying to figure out, okay, sometimes they'll say, hey, with this scenario, you're starting at this time and it gives the players a chance to do X, Y, Z. With this
Right,
scenario,
right,
you're starting at this time, you know, stuff's already moved, so you don't have to worry about that and you're just ready to get right into it. So
right,
that's why I pulled it up and I was kind of reading it here before we started to kind of
right.
see. But yeah, I do have the expansion. I did read through some of the stuff, but yeah, I mean, looking at the forces, I think this battle should play pretty quickly. We don't have a lot of commands,
I really
and
think it
and
should,
given the sort of pace of things, I think the end of turn number we have to hit is a 9.
which means
We're
you're going to be running through it pretty
Yeah, we're
fast,
just going to be chugging along. I would
especially
imagine.
early on with the fog.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
going to be fast,
Yeah.
and then of course it kind of will start getting to a shorter number as you get later in the day.
Right. Yeah. So as the fog lifts, our the
Right.
number we need to hit gets well, we just have fewer boxes to tick through
Right.
before the turn
Exactly.
ends.
Right. Right. So, okay. So now the real question is, when I look at the two armies,
Mm-hmm.
each of the two armies has got one army leader and I think two wing leaders. Am I right when I say that? I thought that's what I saw. Um,
Uh, yeah, they've got, it
One
looks
army leader,
like,
two wing leaders, seven command, one special for the Prussians. For the Austrians, it's one army leader and four wing leaders. I'm sorry, excuse me, and then 10 command leaders and two special leaders.
right.
So, what I'm trying to work out here
Mm-hmm.
is what we've done in the last two games. I think this is right. Correct me if I'm wrong. But at Colon, for sure, we had two attacking players and one defending player.
Correct, because we had, yeah, the Prussian army was a decent sized force. You had, the left wing cavalry, right wing cavalry,
Yeah.
and a goodly amount of infantry split between, I think, two wings.
And I guess at Prague, we had two attackers versus one defender,
Correct.
didn't we? I
Yep.
wanted to be sure I did
Yep.
that right.
Because I
Okay.
had I guess it would be the southernmost stuff. So I had the cavalry
Uh,
down on
right.
the Prussian left wing and a portion
Okay.
of the, who was that? Winter Garden or whatever his name was, his detachment.
Winterfeld.
Winterfeld, that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you had the
Um,
king and a bunch of infantry. So yeah, that
right.
worked out fairly well. And then even at Zorndorf,
We had two
we had,
attackers and one defender.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the question is, does that make sense? Was that the right thing to do? And and by the way, a huge fan of friction, right?
Hmm.
Huge fan of things don't go right, but especially at Curlin, I, David and I were not cooperating very well, which felt exactly like history. I instructed David to do something, and
Right,
David did not do the thing.
right,
So then I started reacting and doing more than I ordinarily would have needed to do if we were just following what I had asked him to do in the first place.
right,
So in
right.
some sense, that's great.
Yeah, no,
In
that
another
is the
sense,
joy of these
e-
group games, is where things
exactly.
start to go off the rails there. It's all not
Right.
perfect. Yeah.
So the question is that really the right thing to do to give the defender unity of command and
Hmm.
make the attackers carry the burden? And I mean, I guess it really would be a burden of having split command,
Right,
or does it make sense to do it the other way around? And by the way, I'm not asking because I have an answer in mind and I'm hoping you're going to select it. The
right.
truth is, I don't know, but I'm just wondering if we should at least evaluate whether it makes sense. Do you put two players on the Austrian side this time versus the two players on the Prussian side?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just looking at this, I know the Austrians have got a larger size force. So as far as splitting it,
Yeah.
it's easier to do because they've got more stuff to split. But
And
by
there's four wing
this,
leaders instead of two.
yeah. Well, and the two
So,
wing leaders for the Prussians are, one's a wing leader for cavalry and one was a wing leader for infantry.
uh, so maybe we really should do it that way.
Yeah,
Split the Austrians.
yeah. And then the Austrians, obviously most of the heat is going to be happening in the north around Lobositz.
Well,
And
that's the
then
victory,
yep, yep. And then
girl.
the rest of the stuff is kind of stuck down here at the more south of the Moorland block. Um, and
Oh,
so, right. So while we have two different commands, one commander is going to be busy if he's the
okay.
person with the stuff up there by Lobowitz, and the other one is going to be working to try to bring stuff up to help support his colleague or
Okay.
whatever, right?
Okay.
So I could see
Okay.
that would be the narrative that we would kind of have
Okay.
for splitting it this way.
Okay.
And then the Prussian player is going to basically have unity of command. And
Okay.
given, I mean, historically, this was almost sort of, I mean, it was I guess technically a Prussian victory in that they camped on the field, but really it was pretty much a draw. In a lot of cases,
Yeah, it was.
it wasn't some sort of blowout
No,
for
no, it was
Frederick.
tactical victory or a marginal
Yeah.
victory, depending on what kind of terminology you want to use. Um, Frankly, I think Frederick got a little bit lucky that he managed to get the result he did because he didn't really handle himself that well,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so it could be a little bit more of a challenge. But I think I'm in agreement with that. That sounds like a good arrangement. Um, I'll volunteer to take the Southern Austrians. I
Okay.
mean, you guys, the two of you can figure out who wants to be well, actually, I think we already know, don't we? Whose turn is it to be alone?
I think I think it was
David's.
David's turn to be the odd man out.
Right. So if
Um,
we make him the Prussians, and then he can come after you at Lobositz, and I can see how I can bring myself up to assist. And we've got the wider map, and if that gives him any choices. Now, I guess the other question we should ask is, do we start at 6 or do we start at 8?
yeah. Well, the 6 o'clock setup. Um,
Offers him some more chances to do a little bit wider variation of things.
right. Right. The deployment could be slightly different.
Yeah.
But I mean, given the terrain you're kind of going through and whatnot,
Kind of channeled anyway.
yeah. I mean, it's really like a
Yeah.
little funnel.
Right.
I
Scenario three is really where the Prussians have like a big change, a big change potential in terms of how they approach.
Hey, David.
Hey, sorry, I was been packing and getting ready for the trip tomorrow, and I
Oh,
Yeah.
completely lost track of the time.
Well,
So,
that's okay. I wasn't sure if you were going to join us because I knew you were taking a trip, and I thought, well, at least Michael and I would sort of chat a little bit about the setup and what we were going to do. But I'm
yeah,
glad that you could join us. I've got a game room set up in Vassal. I've got something
okay.
up you guys can take a look at. It is the scenario 1, which is the 8 a.m. start time. And what Michael and I were talking about was
This
the
is Lobositz.
yeah.
Lobositz. Yep. What Michael and I were talking about is the Austrian army has got it's not quite twice the size of the Prussians, but it is a larger force to be sure. And so there's more to be kind of divided between two people um, than the Prussians, who really just have one wing command of infantry and one wing command of cavalry.
Oh,
Um,
interesting. It only gives me the option to come in as an observer or solo.
oh, okay.
Oh,
Then come in as an
you know why?
observer.
Yeah.
It's because you came in as Prussian and I came in as Austrian
Here,
that
I
really.
can I can see if I can
Yeah.
change my preferences.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know if it matters, does it? Does it actually have any effect on what we can do and not do?
Um, I
Effects?
Sometimes it
that
does.
it had there
Depends
was
on.
something about this sort of hidden movement or whatever that they had. Um, but
See,
I
I
don't
just moved some Prussian units and I came in as the Austrian, so I'm starting to wonder.
know.
And by the
Okay.
way, when I read
Well, come
the
in as
ex,
the observer and
I,
see.
yeah,
Yeah.
I did enter the game as observer.
Okay, and
when
see if
I
you can move something around.
Yep, I can move
Okay.
that.
All
I
right.
can move. Let's see. I can move
so
an
when
Austrian. Yep.
when
Okay.
I read the expansion kit rules, I don't see any of this hidden movement thing you're talking about.
No, that was something in a Labatt game.
No, that was something that they had in the original rules.
Oh, this original ones?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
they had something about there's an off-map movement that
I
they're
don't,
talking
but
about.
I wonder if the expansion kind of mitigated the requirement for it.
I think the off-map the expansion probably did something away with it. I could
I
go
just
grab the other thing, but yeah, I don't see anything here for an off-map. There's no off-map thing here in the
right.
Vassal module. Um,
I
and
just want to hang out at the winery here.
You know,
yeah, so we were thinking that that Michael and I would take the Austrians, and that way we could have command confusion reigning. Where I decide I'm going to march on Berlin, and he decides he's going to march on Prague, and
or the winery.
or the winery. There we go. And so we have the usual
Defend the
fun and
winery.
games. Exactly. And then you would be the Prussians. And so that's one thing. So if you want to do that, we could do that. Otherwise, I'd be happy to play the Prussians and give that a swing if you would rather be on the defense. Um, but yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at. And we have the 8 o'clock start time, which is where we've got stuff that's more or less as it is at 8 o'clock. They did have a 6 a.m. start, which I presume is where the Prussians are marching on the battlefield through
Expect, yeah.
Belinka. And then you've got to basically, figure out where you're going to march and what you're going to do. So, what are your thinkings,
Eh,
David?
eh, Sounds reasonable.
Okay,
Let's
so
get
we're
out
ready
there.
with the 8 a.m. and you're ready to be the Prussians.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we got
Cool.
a little stream that runs through the middle called the Graben.
Right.
Right.
It's like a little drainage ditch, and I don't know that it does very much. It doesn't look like it costs anything extra to go across, and it doesn't look like there's any penalty for morale checks. The only thing where it is an issue is if you are charging cavalry, it looks like it costs 2, and you'd have to do a disorder check going across it. Otherwise, I don't see any other movement penalty. It looks like it's the same cost as a clear terrain.
Yeah, I think you're right. It does look the same, except for, as you say, the special
Cavalry
cavalry
charge.
movement
Right.
changes. Otherwise, it looks pretty much identical. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Um, so now what do we need to do? Are I think all right. So first of all, do we know are the Prussians in exactly the places they're supposed to be?
I don't think their artillery
Intelligence.
is. I think
No,
their
there are a bunch of units in the back that, oh, that's like leaders. The leaders aren't stacked with their commands,
yeah, yeah,
and the artillery are not stacked where they're supposed to be.
right. So yeah, I haven't. I mean, we could go through and kind of double check everything. I know the Prussians are supposed to set up first.
Right. Yeah, and
Um,
that's why I asked the question that way, because the
yeah, and
Prussians need to
so
set up
the
first.
Oh, it's
uh,
interesting. This one doesn't have a button there. You can remove the pieces to look at the map without.
Oh, you're kidding.
I
oh,
don't
so you
see
can't
one.
see what's underneath it. Huh.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so standard.
Wow, you're right.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Um, but
Let's
you're
see.
right.
Scenario 1. Let's see.
Yeah. One sec.
Well, wait a minute. What does that do? Oh, that's just hiding the overview window. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Okay, yeah, you're right. It does. There is no way to hide the units.
Huh.
Oh,
That is curious.
yeah, it is. Okay, so yeah, so the Prussian, what? Uh,
All right.
Look
No.
up first, and it looks like we've got a bunch of Prussian artillery within a hex of 3126. And then we've got some that are within a hex of 3315 and 3413. Okay, so they're stacked in the hex they need to be within one hex of.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it looks like
So
Oberlieutenant
there's
Moeller, who is the special artillery
special,
commander, can
right.
then be stacked with or
Exactly.
adjacent
And really,
to
all the
anybody.
leaders are
Yeah.
stacked back there that need to be put with their commands or wherever you want to put them, I guess.
Right.
All right,
You can put
now,
them back.
are there some online things, updates for it, and like special rules where I can
Yes, in fact,
download?
one of the first of all, yes, you should. The other thing you should bear in mind is that we noticed that the turn track isn't completely accurate. The turn track is from the original game, not from the expansion. And they're like at least the fog end turn modifier is different in the updated version than it is in the Vassal module. I haven't looked everywhere to confirm if other things about the Vassal module are somewhat out of date, but it looks like we at least need to be careful about that.
All right, looks
So
like
yeah,
they're
definitely would
all, yep,
encourage you to go to the Google site
yep,
and
I'm
pull
there right
down.
now. It looks like all kinds of things here.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
All right, let's start.
Yeah, I think if
Oops.
you get the one that says Lobositz expansion rules, it's going to have most of everything you need, including the terrain and fire charts, loss tables,
Oh, that's right, because it's actually
morale
uploaded in this.
check results,
Yeah, yeah,
special results, etc.
yeah. A
So
lot
that's
of the
probably the
charts.
best one. If you're going to download it and print portions of it out, that's where I would. That's where I would
There is
go.
also the turn record chart you want to do because the fog numbers for sure are different, and maybe the end turn numbers aren't the same. I don't know. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, that would have to be something to take a look at. But
I'm scanning. I don't think they changed it. I think all that looks the same. So there's the fog that's different, but otherwise it's the same. Okay.
Folder, Clash of Honor. And let's
let's see
see.
the Austrians. We got the Ban Alisten Grenzers on any hex within 2 hexes of 9508. No, 3508 and 3610. So that's got to be 3508
That doesn't work.
and 30. Or 3610. It's over there.
So we got a new cat back in October.
Right.
He has been so freaked out. He's been living on our screen porch. And we've been going out to visit with him, and there's a cat door. He can come into the house, but he's having none of it. And today we've been gently, slowly trying to open the door and sit in the doorway and get him comfortable with coming in the house. Well, today he is comfortable. Of course, the door's been open all day because it's been warm, but I mean, he's laying right next to me, loving on me. And this is the freakiest, scarediest cat in the world. And I don't know if the meds kicked in today, but he is a happy boy and loves to be sitting next to me. He was
Nice.
out during the winter storm when it was 17 degrees outside. He was out on the screen porch because he was too afraid to come in.
Skirmishers face a vertex, correct?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
All right, so there's a PDF for the charts.
Yep.
But then there's another one that says um, expansion rules and charts. So which charts are we going to use?
Oh,
Because the charts have a more recent date, the one that's just charts, but the one that says expansion rules and charts.
okay. Well, I mean, I don't, that's a good question.
Is there
The expansion rules and charts if we look at that, what do we get? That's actually what came with Prague, because that's what it came with. So the question is there any difference between that and the ones that just separately loaded as charts? Oh boy, that's going to be a pain to figure out. Run a diff on that. Um,
The now and also now you say that the turn record chart that the downloaded one, is that what we're using, or is there
the
something wrong with
downloaded
that?
one we should use, not the one that's in the Vassal module, because at least the fog part of it is wrong, which is in the bottom right corner.
All right. Okay. All right. So I got everything downloaded.
So,
Right. So my guess my question is so we've
so
got
how are we dividing here, um, Eric? Do
Yep.
you get the advance guard and Radicati's cavalry wing, and then I get Kolarot's infantry and Lucchese's cavalry?
Let's
That
see.
seems north-south divide.
Well, if that's where the north-south divide is, then that would be what would make sense, I would
Well, I
guess.
mean, it seems like the ones from the first two are listed as being on the north map, and the other two are listed as being on the south map. And I guess the Grenzers are all up in your neck of the woods, up
Yeah, the
north.
Grenzers are
Well,
all up in these vineyards or whatnot up
yep,
here.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. Absolutely. Okay. All right. Well, then I just wanted to make sure I understood what the dividing line was.
Yeah.
Imagine that. We're going to have a chain of command. Imagine that.
Oh, I'm sure we will mess it up.
Well,
Give us
probably.
some time.
Colorado and Lucchese. And okay. Oh, okay. What? So actually, so you may be more in the thick of it, and you've got the Grenzers, but it looks like I got a lot more troops.
Yes, which is why you
Oh,
need to come to my help.
oh well, maybe.
Come to my
It
assistance. Help me,
it
Obi-Wan.
depends on whether your relatives support my relatives at the court in Vienna.
Is that what it
Otherwise,
boils down to?
otherwise, forget it.
See, it's probably really the case that my wife is engaging in some sort of salacious activity with your second cousin 3 times removed.
This reminds me of Abuela.
Yeah.
Not Abuela, Abuera.
Albuera, yes, indeed. Yes, where they
Abuela
were
would be my grandmother.
fighting each other.
By the way, I had center on opponent's moves enabled. I've just disabled it because you guys were making me nuts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
Because you kept
we
things.
usually make you nuts. What's new?
Oh, sorry. That
Situation
actually
normal.
makes. Yep.
Yeah, unfortunately, the first time you open it, that always comes as default, and
Yeah.
you always have to disable that. Yes, I noticed that it was bouncing around
Okay.
on me too. So what these ones are, they're uh, with the funny looking terrain that's different than anything. Those are vineyards. Is that
Yep,
what?
yep, those are the
Okay.
vineyards. Yep.
Right. No cavalry charging into vineyards at all. It's really good for Grenzers. It's okay for other infantry.
All right.
Okay.
So far, I'm just kind of comparing the PDFs for the charts. I haven't found anything yet that was different, but
Yeah, nothing leapt out at me either.
uh,
These guys. Granzers. What Granzers? I don't see them. Where are the Granzers? Where are the Granzers?
Your Grenzer should be that they're the little guys with the red pants.
No,
Blue
no,
jackets, red
I
pants.
found two of them. I'm looking for them in the setup charts, and I'm having.
Oh, they would be, I would
Oh, I
think.
found them. I found car. Okay. Oh, and I got one way down south. Okay.
Yeah, you got one way down in that other little town, or
Right.
yes, yeah.
Okay. All right. And then these guys are Colorat's command within 3 hexes of that hex. That's McGuire. 3 hexes of 52. Okay. All right. And then what do we have here?
I don't know who did this vassal module, but you can't easily reorder your units.
Oh, you mean like
Flip,
reorder the
yeah,
stack?
yep. Who's on top? Who's on bottom? Who's on second? Who's on third?
Kind of stuff that's important.
Yep.
I guess I'm a little confused about some of this terrain. What is that wall that goes around?
The tier garden?
Yes, Solovitzer Tiergarten.
I see it on the chart. It looks like it takes all of your movement to go across it for infantry, and then cavalry and artillery are prohibited. Except for obviously where the trail is
There's a
open.
gate.
Yeah, there's a
Right,
gate, or there's an
yeah,
open a gap in the wall.
Okay, and then otherwise you got to go through the village.
Yes, yeah, you would go either this
All right.
way through that, or I don't know,
Yeah.
fight your way into the church and then fight your way back out again, kind of a thing.
I don't need to fight my way into the church. I'm already there.
No, I know. That's how somebody else would do it, right?
Okay, all right. Just asking.
The baddies.
5, 6, and 7. Uh-oh. We got a little bit of difference between the setup here and the setup I'm seeing on the board.
Okay.
So if we go to that walled city,
Yep.
right? What's stacked there is 5, 6, and 7 grenadiers. And
Right.
if you look under grenadiers, 5, 6, and 9 are supposed to set up in line on any Solovitz hexes or any hex in the Solovitz Tiergarten.
Right.
And then 7 and 8, which includes one of those counters, is supposed to set up in line on North 4615.
Yeah, they're already up here.
Well, no, what I'm saying is that one of the units that's right there is one of the units that it says is supposed to be in 4516.
So 5. So you're supposed to have. So 4516 is supposed to be 7 and 8. And who do we have instead? We've got
8 and 9.
8 and 9.
And I'm trying to figure out.
And so 9 should be down in the other place, and 7 should be up here.
Yes.
Right. So we just swap them out.
Okay.
So I'll go drop number 9 down.
Perfect.
Here in the village. Right. Okay. And then we're looking for number 7.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a
7, number
stack.
7. Okay. And then I'll move number 7 up. I think I got a better deal.
Yeah, well. Um, okay. And so these guys go in Solvitz, hexes, or in the tier garden. Okay. And you're right. You got to move the guys out to even see what kind of hex you're in,
Yep.
which is curious, not standard. Um, and if I look, it doesn't look like that hex actually means anything.
Which one?
The one these guys happen to be on with the huge church doesn't look like it actually is any different. It looks like it's just a village.
Yeah, and I seem to recall when I was reading through the stuff for the terrain that
Yeah.
um, that was the that was the case where it was not anything of any significance.
Not like a walled church like it is in so many.
No, yeah. So in fact, they made the point it's not like the special structures at Colin or at some of the other
Okay.
places.
Okay.
So yeah, and so same thing with like the winery. It's just there for the sake of. So it says hexes containing the winery and the chapels are for reference only and have no effect on play.
Really?
Um,
That's where do you
yeah,
see that?
that's there under terrain and the expansion rules. That's yeah.
I'm looking, I'm just not seeing it.
It's on page 7. It
Seven.
is
Seven.
5.2H.
Each single building hexes.
Yep,
Okay,
yep, yep.
perfect. All right. Well, that's interesting. What a curious choice of expression. So winery and chapels, that's 5725, but that's not the hex I'm worried about. Huh.
You're looking for what that little church
Uh,
in
yeah, that
Sokolowitz?
church, the Silovitz, yeah, which takes up an entire hex. And I don't know, am I just supposed to consider it just another Silovitz hex?
Well, in the
Which hex
original
are
rules,
you,
I think I read the original rules tonight, so that's probably fresher in my brain.
which hex are you referring to?
It's gonna be 4434.
Yeah, just ping it. That would be the easy way.
Um,
Okay, 44.
big church there.
Hmm.
Okay, so it says village hexes. Villages are comprised of life construction building widely separated from each other. Many of the
Right,
buildings were just for farms usage and not inhabited. They offered
right.
little interference to maneuver.
Yep.
Lobositz did have some substantial buildings, such as the church and school, but neither played the role of a Luthen or Holkkirche church. During the battle, most of Lobositz burned down. Villages tend to slow units down that attempt to pass through them too quickly for this reason. Okay, so it doesn't look like that it's anything terribly substantial from at least what the rules are indicating. And I don't even see anything on the, like with the church there and that walled farm at Colon. There's
Yeah.
not anything here on the map
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the
No,
terrain effects
absolutely.
chart. So it's
So
got to just kind
it
of be,
looks like it's
like
just
a village
another
hex.
village hex. Yeah.
Yeah,
And village hexes don't mean a lot. They block LOS, they're non-clear terrain, but there's not much else.
yeah. Same fire defense. You do get a +1 on defense and a morale check of a -5 to the better.
Okay.
So
All
that's
right.
better than a poke in the eye.
Yeah.
Fire defense in Lobowitz is 15 instead of 10. So
Right. 'Cause those are
a
stouter
little bit more.
buildings.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do
Yeah.
the gray tinged hexes mean?
The one there by the winery, you mean?
Well, yeah, there's the ones by the winery. I mean, there's strips of them on there.
No, there are. It's a fair point. I'm not sure what that means. Is it just elevation levels? Oh no, the elevation levels are the contour lines, the dotted lines. So yeah, what does the gray mean?
Well, and plus you've got like these sort of green patchy hexes too. I'm like,
Right.
so
Yeah.
they don't seem to be. I mean, unless there's, yeah. I mean, that seems to be how they're indicating slope,
But
right? So,
yeah, it's weird actually. I'm trying to figure that out.
yeah. Hey, we have somebody
Uh,
who's joined us. Someone named Newbie
oh, nobody.
joined the Vassal module.
Is that what's on your birth certificate, newbie? I just gotta ask.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. That's really curious because the the challenge I have is that, well, the charts I'm looking at here, the printed charts that came with the expansion kit
Right.
are in black and white, so it's all
Oh,
grayscale. So actually, the ones you download are better because they actually have color. But I think I'm likely to agree with you that I'm not sure those colors have any meaning.
Yeah, I think the gray is sort of artistic, but the green stuff that's there along the hex line looks like that's how they're indicating
Slope?
slope. Yeah, because there is a slope
Yes,
and a
you're
steep
right.
slope.
There's slope and steep slope. And if I zoom in on that,
So
where is
south
slope and steep slope?
1609 and 1610. That's got to be the stuff that's up there. Uh,
well, I think slopes are the texture at the.
Agreed.
right, it's that sort of 1610.
1609 and 1610. And you kind of see
Oh,
some
yeah, yeah,
hatch.
yeah. So here's, yeah, yeah. So this, so I guess this is severe slope here with a little hatchwork along it.
Yep, and that matches
Okay.
the
And then
And then 1508 and
1509.
1509 is just slope. And that's just more or less just the color, it looks like, without
Yes.
all the hatching.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's severe
That
slope, and
those
then
are
just
clear, right?
the very subtle, but it doesn't look like with the, well, with the subtle slope you've got a little bit more movement cost.
Yeah.
Um, but
And it's still
that's
fun to
it. And
attack
the
on.
severe slope look like it's got a little bit more expensive movement cost.
Right.
And for cavalry charging, you got to make a morale check
And
crossing
a
it.
disorder check.
I mean, a disorder check, right? Is it the same? Is the asterisk the same, or is it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
it's a
asterisk is telling you
disorder
it's a
check. Yeah,
disorder check.
yeah. So not a morale
So,
check, a disorder check. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
all
Wow.
right.
Okay.
So those vineyards are affect a lot of disorder checks there. Walking through
Right.
that.
So the vineyards, the southern slope, are covered by vineyards. By October 1756, nearly all of the foliage would have been gone, but the rows of tough old vines, low stone walls, and tracks cut into the hill slopes would have made excellent defensive terrain and poor ground for maneuvering. So it says all special cavalry movement is prohibited into vineyard hexes. Vineyard hexes do not block line of sight. Vineyard hexes are non clear terrain. For morale checks with a terrain modifier for a non skirmish unit in a vineyard hex is modified by a -5, a skirmish unit by a -10. Okay, so I guess being in the vineyard is helpful for a morale check if you're a skirmisher. Well, and slightly helpful if you're in another formation, it looks like. And that seems to be the extent of it as far as the vineyards go. The real issue is the movement cost
Well, plus
and
disorder.
the disorder check every time you
Yeah,
move.
yeah, that's gonna be a drag. Okay.
Right. And
Car 3 and 4. Any hex in the tier garden. Okay.
let's see, it looks like we've got Matt is in the lobby with us. Hello, Matt. How are you? Well, maybe he's just.
No, I'm doing good, but I'm muted, and it took me. I can never get off of mute fast enough.
That's
I'm doing well, thank you.
Are you
totally
are you newbie in our game room?
Oh yeah, I must be. Yeah, I logged into Discord and the game via Vassal so that I could, look at unit values and things. So
Okay,
Hmm.
I just want to make sure that was you, and I didn't have
yep,
somebody else necessarily. So
you
cool.
should have put my name in it. It was a little rude. I'm an observer.
Well, and
By
that's
the
why I
way,
was like, who is newbie? So,
a,
what's your
a
question,
tier
Matt?
garden a tier garden is an animal park for hunting,
cute. I
a
did
hunting
not.
reserve.
So it's kind of
The
like,
Solovitz Tiergarten is probably the baronial hunting park.
yep, it's kind of like the pheasantry at Austerlitz, I would think.
I would think
Oh,
it's exactly the same thing,
Yeah,
except it's probably got deer.
yeah, instead of pheasants.
okay.
Or it could
Well,
have peasants, but that would be almost anywhere.
The
it's
peasantry.
it's good to be king, right?
It's good to be king.
The peasants are revolting. So, well, I need to find a clip of History of the World Part 2 and just play that anytime we go do something exciting.
There you go.
So,
Okay. This is this is just so funny. Just starting and just like, okay, who are my units? What are the command relationships? What's even happening here? Um, okay, within 3 hexes. Okay. And dear, that gonna work? Yeah. Can I? Okay, that's one. Okay, two. Guys, it's within 3 hexes of there. 4, and that's there.
all right. Yeah, I'm surprised they don't have the commanders with the units. That does make it a little bit tricky.
Unusual. I mean,
But
I mean, you can put them there. You just have to make it happen yourself.
yeah, well, I have to figure out where are they? Who's this? All right, so you've got
It's what-
Colrath and Lowenstern and O'Donnell. Those are my guys. Okay, let's see who belongs to them. So Lowenstern's got. Those are the dragoons. And those are the cuirassiers.
Okay. Okay, and then shoot. I don't know if it even freaking matters where I put this guy, but I'm going to put him there. Okay, so that's that unit, and then who else do I have? WO within 2 hexes of 5505. That's funny. He's in the wrong hex. Curious. Interesting. Wait a minute. What is he doing there? Okay. Within 2 hexes of. How does that work?
Very carefully, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm struggling. 1, 2. All right.
All right, who are these guys?
Do
They are
this.
part of W. They must be part of Veed's command. So now we got to find
This.
Veed.
This. Okay, and then we're gonna
There's
do 1,
Veed.
2, 4. Boom. 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 And then these 3 can all just turn.
Gee, I'm looking at mine, and I got one that says Prince von Prussia Cuirassier PVV 6-6 on hex, blah, blah, blah. Optional. Instead of the single 6-6, substitute both Prince von Prussia 8-6 counters.
What? You suppose that was a typo and that was a 16? Or is he really just a 6?
No, I saw something on one of the charts saying that there's optional units in the Prussians. There was like a little asterisk somewhere. Yeah. In with, it looks like with Kleinau's command, there's a cuirassiers. It says optional as 2 units. And then there's another one under Bevern's where it's a fusilier. No, well, I don't know if it's a fusilier or a musketeer or what it is, but it also has an optional additional unit. I didn't read the details on it, but it's there
I'll
on
take
the.
I'll take the optional, man. 2 8-6s versus a 6-6. Wow, yeah,
For a single 6-6?
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, does it say why what the option is, or?
No, but I'm just looking at it. Right, it's under Kiao's command there, right?
Yeah. No, I
729.
saw it. I
Yeah,
just don't know what the
I don't.
justification is.
That's weird. It feels like a typo. That's just weird.
Well, here it's under 4.3 Prussian optional units. Historically, the Munchau Fusiliers, 2nd Battalion, and Prince von Prussen Cuirassier garrisoned the Prussian baggage wagons and did not participate in the battle. If the players wish, they can include these optional units. the Munchau Fusiliers 2nd Battalion is deployed with the Munchau Fusilier 1st Battalion and replace the 6.6 Prince von Preußen with both A and B full strength Prince von Preußen Crusair units. So they apparently historically they were off further back and not there. So if we want to play with them, we can play with them. It doesn't matter to me. So we just at some critical point when they go into combat, we have to roll to see if they're really there or not.
Right.
Yeah, and if you don't roll correctly, they disappear. They were just
Yeah.
ghost riders in the sky.
Okay. I think I'll do this with these guys. Oh, maybe these guys. Oh, that's LO. 512. Within 3 hexes. They need to be within 3 hexes of there. Who do we have? Oh my gosh, I got a lot of cavalry. I mean, I have no cavalry at all. This is terrible.
Don't you have Lucchese?
I'm kidding.
Oh, okay.
That was a psyop I was trying to
Oh,
do.
oh. I'm like, wait, is he not there? Where is he? Okay. All right, so I've got
Like,
this guy.
Okay. And then we got the artillery part. I'll worry about them in a minute. What about these
Let's
guys?
see.
Peroni.
Yep, there's a name we've heard before.
Yeah, 6402. Within 3 hexes of that. What am I supposed to do to get across that mess? Okay, within 3 hexes of. All right. So what do we got here?
All right, and then there's Haddock, who's got these hussars. Where are the hussars is the question. Somewhere else from the looks of it. Hussar, BAR. And who's the other hussar? HAD. All right. So they are broken down. Okay, so Haddock is over here then. Out of curiosity, David, did you do your movement for Moscow?
no, I'm actually gonna try and log in tomorrow night.
Oh, okay.
Should be. I've got my laptop set up to at least be able to kind of, has Discord and the correct stuff on it. So
Okay.
hopefully I can log in and try and do it, because it was just, I was looking at it, I'm going, this would be too confusing. So Because
Yeah.
it depends on orders of the way, what order different things come up in, and
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the usual sort of stuff there. All right. So,
It's all right, knucklehead. 1, 2. All right, so we're going to do them, and them. And I like that you can put those labels on units, but it's not delightful that we've got all these labels we have to take off.
yes. But the good news is you can take them off fairly easily.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Just hit the
Control
change.
L.
Yeah. Control
Yep.
L and then just hit the backspace button
Okay, and then it
and
all
then click OK.
vaporizes.
Yeah. And it all vaporizes. Yep.
Okay, and then
Yeah.
artillery units within 2 hexes of any infantry units. Colorot's wing. Okay. And what do I got there? 12-pounder.
All right.
Six
There's
pounder.
where the rest of my guys are. Okay. Cool. Within 2. Yeah, I watched a little video about this battle, and it looked like the Prussians kind of, weren't expecting the whole Austrian army, and kind of charged forward, and the cavalry got savaged pretty badly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they like, oh, on second thought, whoa, we gotta. And then they were like getting shot at by the Austrian artillery, so then they charged again and got pretty badly beaten up.
Well, and I think if you think about it, this was the battle after which he said these aren't the same old Austrians,
Yeah.
as they found them a hell of a lot tougher than they had been.
Yep.
Okay. I think I might have everybody in position.
Well, that's a good start. Let's see.
Oh, that's interesting. That didn't work. Or at least it didn't work as I thought it would.
Hmm.
Oh, I see what I did. Okay, let's try that again, this time with feeling.
What are these hexes that are marked like 9, 10, and 11 up at the top, and then there's a
Those have to do with the elevation. So you see the ones at the top that say 1? That's the contour line for level 1. The little one that says 2, that's the contour line 2, 3, 4, 5,
No,
6,
that's not
7.
what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the ones that in like right
The
now I'm
Lobosberg
Oh,
up here?
okay, yeah.
Yep, those are contour lines, right? So you can
Okay,
see
those
there's
are still
really,
elevation.
yeah, I mean, it's really tight elevation up here. Nobody's going up here. This is all prohibited terrain. You can't even cross that steep slope. It's too steep
Then why do they even have it? Okay. And same thing,
because it looks pretty.
I'm assuming the same thing for the Wamazenberg.
Yes, yes. So there was something where it indicated that there was some of this terrain that was impassable. Um, I was there in the terrain section, so I'll read it here real quick.
Anything above level 7, I think, is impassable.
Yeah, it says impassable hexes and hexsides. The hexsides surrounding the summits of the Lobosch and the Weisrin and the Jerskenberg hills cannot be entered by any units. River hexsides cannot be crossed. Dotted river hexes and bold river hex lines cannot be entered or crossed by any unit. Hexes are X, Y, and Z are examples of pond hexes. So I guess there's some pond somewhere as well. Yeah, so there's a
Yeah,
couple of ponds
some
there by
south of
Solwitz.
Beer Garden and
Yep,
some
yep,
near Sullivan's. Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Although
So
that's where
anything with
the
a
Austrian submarines are being kept.
anything with a dot in it can't be. You can't enter
Correct.
that,
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
the dark blue lines cannot be crossed
yep,
there.
Yeah.
yeah. So like
The
the little
dot.
island that's there north of Lobositz, it's a nice vacation spot, but I can't get anybody over there.
Can you shell it
I could.
there?
That's probably
That's
where the peasants of Lobositz are taking shelter.
if they're smart, they are, because there ain't much town left by the end
Yeah,
of this.
yeah, yeah. It's pretty sad.
Year.
Oh, wow, those grenadiers are nice. Yeah, Austrian infantry is pretty much Austrian infantry.
But they're not as bad as they were in the last war.
Yeah. Well, do they have any games that cover that, or is that what is it? Molwitz and
Lobositz and
Chochuzitz?
Lobositz are
Okay.
both from the War of the Austrian Succession, and yeah,
Uh-huh.
they're execrable. They're truly wretched. I think you get what times two. I think at one hex range, because in the War of the Austrian Succession, they're still using wooden ramrods,
Oh, wow. So their loading is,
very slow,
yeah.
and I guess they wised up a little after they got bum rushed out of Silesia.
Yep. You losing one of your most profitable provinces will do that to you.
Uh, yeah. And when it turns out that the queen's actually a lot tougher than anybody imagined she was.
Yes.
Or the
So,
okay, you still got
who, me?
oh wait a minute. My wing leaders are still stuck up there. I
Yeah,
didn't
you've still
realize.
got
Oh,
Lucchese
okay.
up there, and
Yeah.
who
All right.
else? Yeah.
Yeah. And are you moving the
I'll take Fernstein.
yeah, that's what that was the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, I mean, I've only got a little bit of artillery. I don't know where's most of our artillery.
I got some of it down
Okay.
south.
Yeah, I've only got three units up here, so I figured you've got to have more
He's
stuff.
Colrats. He's Colrats. He's Colrats. He's Colrats. Okay. And are these guys worth a damn? No. No. Wow. A little. And no. Wow. Okay. So that's too bad because I've got Polrat's command. His wing is scattered across a lot of territory, and none of these guys seem to be able to take much initiative on their own.
Well, given how rapidly the turn is going to be chugging away with hitting or I guess hitting or exceeding 9, is that what we have to do?
Yeah.
End of turn number is 9.
Probably exceeding 9.
Yeah, yeah.
It's an end turn number. Yeah.
Yep. So rolling better in 9, and particularly with the bunch of pluses for the fog, will be so. Yeah. So if you got you guys in, I guess, road mode or something, they'll be able to move somewhat during the end of the turn phase, kind of a thing.
And then, where's Brown go?
Mr. Brown of renown.
Well, that depends on how the battle goes.
Let's see. Set up per Lobositz rules, but only on the south map. So I guess he can go anywhere. That's rule
on the
set
south
up
map.
Where does the deployment instructions give the full name of the leader regiment battle deployment? So yeah, I guess you can put him anywhere you want. Army leaders, special leaders, wing leaders may set up on or adjacent to any friendly unit with other possible scenario restrictions. Command leaders set up with any unit of their command.
Right. And 70A, but only on the south map. Okay, and the south map starts at...
There is a notation.
I see it.
Yep.
Yeah, on the right side of the map. So where do we put him? I think I'll put him back over this way.
Yeah, and in fact, it looks like the hexes are marked S.
Are they?
Well, they're along where the division is.
Oh, yes.
See how it says S608 or whatever? And it looks like the numbering system changes slightly there.
Does it?
Yeah, but now this is the south map extension. So where's the real south map? From the real game.
I don't think there was a south map.
Oh, it was just one map?
I think so. I think it was.
Okay. Yeah, because this is not a very big.
So it ended where that over on the right, you see where the north NS and there's a line there.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So over on the west side, you can see where the south map is. So that would have been. So if you think about the line that would go through from east to west through that chapel at Solkowitz.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So really, it suggests that a lot of the Austrians would have come on as reinforcements in the original version.
Right, which is why it talked about having that off-map off-map thing. So that way you're moving stuff off-map, and then it shows up as a reinforcement on map when it marches onto the map. Yeah.
Add the extension.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay, you got Feuerstein.
Yep.
Okay, and then you've got. I guess you got Rad out there where you want him.
Well, I mean, he's somewhere. I mean, he's got one of his commands or detachments up there. The other one's back behind the sunken road. Yeah. So.
All right. Okay, I'm going to declare victory.
Well, that was easy.
It's a lot easier than you think. Just go ahead and declare victory and get it out of the way.
There you go.
But I'm going to go find the slit trench, as they say.
All right. Do, 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 do. How are things going with you, David?
Going well. Just getting ready for head to Florida tomorrow.
Is it business or some
Oh, this
other?
is well, mostly pleasure. We're
Okay.
going down for my son's birthday, basically, but I'm also going down because I haven't visited my mother in a little bit, and
Okay.
so we're flying down into Punta Gorda, and then we'll go up and spend a couple days with my mom and at my brother's, and I've got two sisters down there too, so
Okay. Nice.
them, and then we'll drive over to the east coast of Florida, and then spend some time with both my sons are over there. So
Very nice. Hey, I thought I'd let you know that it looks like in the setup, Bevern's command starts with 4 SP losses on any. So take 1 SP loss on any 4 battalions of his command. So 4 SPs total. So that's. I think he's over here in the
He's in the
vineyards.
vineyard.
Yeah. So because I took losses on some of my skirmishers, so I must be simulating the losses from the combat that took place between the 6 a.m. turn and the 8 a.m. turn.
Hmm.
so and anywhere on Bevern there?
Yeah, so it says 1 loss on 4 battalions. So for a total of 4 losses. And it looks like you've got, if you're using the optional thing, should have 8 battalions that you could. So basically, half of them will have a single hit.
What's the optional thing there?
Remember we talked about there was that musketeer unit. That's an optional
Because
one.
I don't have them on here. That's what I'm
Oh,
saying.
then you missed out. That's a terrible shame.
You snoozed, you lose.
That's right. You've got some people over there. I don't know who those guys are. KLE. Unless they're Kleist. Does Kleist have people over there? And
Oh,
JB.
Kleist.
Who's JB?
Oh, there's a couple of.
So yeah,
What is-
Beverin's he's got the, I guess, he's got a KLE, but
Yep.
regiment, an MUS regiment, no, a Bevern regiment, a Munchen, and a Teufel.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Who,
2
who's the one?
MAN, 2
Who's the one that's got the
BEV,
extra?
2
The MUN.
KE, and then this one should have a spare. I don't know who these guys are, right? Why do you
Those are
have?
those are those are
Are they
independent.
grenadiers? Ah, okay. I'm like, where do they weren't listed over, so they must be listed somewhere else then.
Yep.
So
They're
that's the Kleist
listed under the
Grenadiers,
independents.
2909, and the JB
So what
Jung
is it? What's the
Billerbeck.
R on the back of all my units?
That's just because Matthew's partial to turning units over to mark them as routed instead of putting a route marker
Oh,
on them.
okay.
So he started doing that with all the new counters. That's all the R means. But by the way, confused John Minnick earlier today when we were playing Quebec. He was having the same problem in a different way.
Right.
Because
All right.
for in battles for Quebec, every unit has a tiny little letter at the bottom of the back that tells you which battles it belongs to. And
Ah,
he told him that, and John didn't even see it. He's looking at this big R, and he's like, "What battle is that?" I'm like,
right.
"What are you talking about? There is no R."
Now, the one thing I did see here that's interesting is it looked like with the Prussians. Where's the Prussian stuff? It's saying that Prussian units. Let's see, infantry are 3 ranks from the infantry line SP chart. Due to
Trench
efficiency in training, all Prussian infantry units can move obliquely without paying the extra movement point cost.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Yes.
That,
And
that's my infantry?
Yeah, it says
yep,
all, yeah. So it's all Prussian infantry can move obliquely. So so we've jumped around a little bit, right? As far as the
yeah,
games. So from a chronological order of the battle versus a chronological order of when the game was developed,
right.
right? So the ones where the game was developed more recently, the Prussians are able to maneuver better. The games that were designed
Right.
for 20 years or more ago, 25 years or so ago, 30 years ago, practically at this point, um, they've got where only some of the Prussian units can do that, and the others are hindered, even
Well,
though,
and what's really funny is that at Prague they can, but at Cologne they can't.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
a
yeah,
couple of weeks later,
yeah,
it's like you've forgotten how to do it, boys.
yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, and we were playing with the updated rules too, and
Yep.
it still reflected that. So I don't
Yeah.
know what the thinking was with,
And well, I mean, I'm guessing
unless it's a
Matthew.
play balance kind of a thing or something.
I'm guessing Matthew's probably a little bit reluctant to make too big of changes
Ah,
on the games he didn't design. Right? He didn't
right.
do. He didn't do Zorndorf. He didn't do Colon. Um, he did the update to this one, but he. I don't know. Um, he, I can kind of see that, right? It's like,
Right.
well, I don't want to break what they did, so I just want to make sure to update it to third edition rules, but just generally keep things the same otherwise. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting words in his mouth, so probably I shouldn't.
Do I have some guard units here? Who are my guard units?
Uh,
I think yeah, you might have one.
you've got yeah, you got one guard unit. It's one strength point.
Yep, it's a one
It's called
for it's
GRE.
blue and it's got yellow
Ah,
pants. I'm sure they look really sharp.
it in fact really when we say guard, we literally mean it's a guy.
Yeah, it's 100 guys.
Like no, it's like one guy. He's tough, but he's the bodyguard.
One Liebgard Grenadier Company.
That's
Okay.
right. Sent him into the meat grinder.
All right. So how do I tell musketeer? Okay, that says musketeer. All right. That says
Actually, it looked
musketeer.
like mostly musketeers. You've only got like a very few fusiliers there.
Yeah, you've only got that that one unit that had the that's with Bevern's command that had the extra optional unit. That's the only fusilier I see. Otherwise,
Yeah,
everybody else are musketeers or grenadiers.
right.
All right, it looks like you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 grenadiers.
So mostly musketeers. All
Yep.
right. All right. So right now the artillery is overstacked in that. No, that isn't a vineyard house. That's okay. So what
It's
is?
just a clear
It's a
building.
village.
Yeah.
Well, there's a.
So it's because it's just a single building. Remember how we said that
Oh, they're just.
it doesn't
They
count as
just
anything.
the
Yeah.
winery. It's
Yeah.
just clear. So that's not overstacked there.
Yeah. I mean, because you have 8 there. But remember, only 4 can fire out. So
So let's see. But I can move to. guns do I want to move? What? That's 12, 13, 10.
This is very interesting because in the video that I was watching, it looked like the Austrians and the Prussians were fairly equal in the number of artillery units they had. They both had about 90 guns each. But
Okay.
looking at the counters, the Austrians have
12?
5.
Well, 12 steps.
How do we have 12 steps? Oh, because it's 2 each, I guess.
Yeah.
So
And the,
we've got 5. So we've got 7 counters, and
yeah,
the Prussians have got 11 counters.
they've got 21 strength points of guns, and we have 12.
Hmm.
But as I learned when studying up on Zorndorf,
Right.
it, it's hard to get really good numbers. The trouble that you get is that sometimes the numbers you get include regimental guns, and sometimes they don't.
Right.
And I'm starting to slowly and begrudgingly come around to realizing that maybe the the uh, the numbers of strength points in Zorndorf aren't really wrong in terms of the actual numbers of guns. The Prussians did have more guns of large caliber, not
Right.
regimental guns.
So
Um,
then it's the case where those other guns are factored into the fire multiplier of the infantry
yeah,
units because you basically have pop guns
yeah,
mixed in with the infantry.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And I guess the challenge there is that the Russians had more of those sort of regimental battalion sorts of guns, but they also had more regiments and battalions. So really, they only had a few more guns per battalion.
Right.
So it's not like it even really moves the needle on the fire multiplier very much in that sense. Um, so I, and then the other thing, and now Paul Borchers actually talked about this earlier today when he was over here,
Right.
that that it's kind of hard to go from reading the stories about these very impressive unicorns and very impressive Shuvalov howitzers and then compare them to how they're represented in the game, where they're eh, they're not really all that impressive.
Right.
So it's like, well, which is it? Why is the text talks about them being really ferocious and then them not being all that ferocious? So
Right.
anyway, I'm still not 100% convinced, but I definitely did find in the Zorndorf historical commentary where Zeton said, "Yeah, I can't get across the Zaberngrund,"
Right.
and so that kind of makes me think there should be more precipice hexes as you get down towards
Towards that
what
little
was
village or
Kvartschen,
yeah.
Kvartschen, whatever it is. Anyway, it's almost like as I read it, he crossed far up that that little gully,
Right.
not not down towards the river, but well up.
Mhm.
And and so I'm sitting there thinking, well, gosh, if you change the terrain rules so that you can't cross down low, and all you could do is just go into that town
Right.
And if you didn't give a +10 to the army morale, then really the incentive to go do it is a whole lot less. And it would be easier for the Russians to garrison that right flank. And so the incentive to even try an end around would be less.
Right.
I don't know. I'm pondering how to kind of fix what feels broken about it. And just kind of looking for evidence to kind of help me understand what's okay. And like I said, I'm a little chagrined that the numbers of SPs are of artillery are probably fairly accurate, but maybe the effectiveness ratings could get tweaked a little bit
Right.
on some of them. We'll see.
You got lots of skirmishers, don't you?
I've got a
Yeah.
few.
You know those crazy Austrians. The reputation, all the Grenzers were like supposed to be like Croats, but I don't really know that they really were. They just I think that was a German name for irregulars was Croats.
Croatians.
Yeah.
Well, and I think typically the Grenzers were recruited from sort of the southern provinces that were kind of fighting against the Turks a fair amount of time. Sort of
Okay.
irregular troops. So that's why, well, you've got, Croatia would have been on the frontier there with
It could have been.
Bosnia,
Yeah.
Herzegovina,
Yep.
Romania, all of those parts are still part of the Ottoman Empire at this time.
Right.
So Transylvania, all the rest. Well, although maybe Transylvania had been conquered by the Hungarians at this point in time.
Might have been.
The Austrians did segregate as they brought people into the army. So they had Croats as light infantry, and they had Grenzers, and the Grenzers were from, as you say, the Turkish border. There were lots of these little units that were segregated by language.
Yeah, I mean they'd have to be, right? Because
It'd have to be.
otherwise
You're right. Yeah.
troops couldn't talk to each other. That would be pretty lousy for unit cohesion, wouldn't it?
Because they
And
had German,
they even
Hungarian,
still did that
Czech,
all the way up to the First World
Croatian.
War, where the units were segregated by language.
Mhm.
All right.
As I'm looking, you look fairly outnumbered up there by yourself, Eric.
Yeah, that's why you're supposed to come up and help me. Historically, what happened was the Prussians weren't making any progress in the center. But then what happened was Bevern kind of broke through in the north and came through and took that little village on the Elbe. What is it? Welkhoken or whatever it's called. There's a guy there. What's it called? Welhota. And then kind of turned the Austrian line and started coming down towards Lobositz that way.
I see.
And so by that time, then that was kind of the maneuver that happened. But up until that point in time, and actually Frederick was about ready to leave the battlefield, and
Again.
turn everything over to, because after his cavalry got punched in the nose, he was about ready to leave and turn everything over to Keith um, to finish up the battle or to to wind things down. And then when Bevern broke through, Keith sent a note saying, "Hey, we've made some progress. Things have changed."
Never mind.
Yeah, never mind. Exactly. So, yeah. So, needless to say, and the bulk of the Austrian army stayed south of the Morellen, and it was because Brown seemed to think that that's where the Prussians were going to be making their move, kind of turning his left wing from the south instead of turning his right wing from the north.
Well,
So
and I think that's what scenario 3 is about.
yeah,
In fact, what's it called? Brown's Nightmare? Brown's
Brown's
Fever Dream?
slightly
Whatever.
yes, fever dream. That sounds about right.
Brown's Fear. That's what it was.
There we go. So, but yeah, there was something in some of the stuff they were talking about with the, like what people could do or what the Prussians could do. So we'll see. As we said, this is the first time any of us has played this one, so
That's right. Yeah, this is
it's anybody's guess how it's going to turn out.
kind of an amazing experience for me after all these years of playing this series to have never touched this one.
Yeah. Well, we have William Orenz from Kitchener, Ontario, Canada, tuning in. We have five or six viewers.
Very nice.
It says, William says, Lobositz seems to be one of those towns in Bohemia that were still ethnically German in the 18th century and remained so until 1945.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I've seen some maps recently of, German language speakers in 1914 versus 1945, and it's a pretty dramatic change.
yeah. Yep, no, all of that stuff switched around there. And I know somebody who was talking about having gone to visit Austerlitz, and of course, all the town names have been changed. They're more,
Right.
Czech or whatever,
Well, I think a lot of these
Slovak or
places,
something. Yeah,
Zorndorf is in Poland now.
yeah,
So there's a lot of these places that have changed
yeah.
substantially in that regard. Yeah. And I have a terrible time mapping these names in my head. Breslau is now something else, but I can't ever remember what the Polish name is for it. But I mean, just so many of these places, the names are not the same.
Hey, I'm still calling it Constantinople.
There you go. That's the spirit.
Exactly. You can call it Istanbul all day long, but I'm going to call it Constantinople.
Well, I'm glad that you've decided to get politically correct and stop calling it Byzantium. Because that.
And
was
it's the
getting
Gulf of
really-
America, for God's sake.
Oh yeah, well, obviously.
Oh, hey, we've got somebody else. What's that?
Don't we have the Sea of Marmara? But I don't know of any place called Marmara. I don't understand.
There we go. There we go. We've got somebody else from the Great White North tuning in. Darren says, hello from the Yukon. Great to see the dedication in Napoleonic gaming. Well, this is technically not Napoleonic gaming, Darren. We are playing, this particular battle is from the 7 Years' War. And so we are about, 60 years ahead of schedule. This is 1756. So yeah, we're about 50 years before the Napoleonic Wars.
Tell them to turn in tomorrow night.
Yeah, tomorrow night we've got Battle of Borodino that we've been doing, the Labatai de Moskwa. That is September 1812. That's the Labatai series. We're doing that. And then on Thursday mornings at 6 o'clock in the morning Pacific Coast time, I'm playing Alau, the game that is from the Sound of Drums company. So Darren says, I'm programming a Borodino vassal module as I listen in. Okay, well, cool.
All right.
Very nice.
What game system are you? I mean, there's so many Borodino battles. So the question is, which one? He says, "Oh, LOL. I'm focused on my tinkering." Okay. So he guessed that the time the battle particular war was off a little bit. So what game system for Borodino are you doing a vassal module for? That is the question, Darren. So King Frederick has moved. We have to roll the dice and see if he falls off his horse.
Clearly.
Survey says, oh, a 93. That is so sad. He has fallen off his horse. We needed to
What?
roll a 92 or better, and we rolled a 93. That is pretty
Is,
bad.
is this a special rule that I'm unaware of? I have not read any of the rules yet.
That is my favorite kind.
Let's see. William says, yes, Breslau is now spelled Wrocław in Polish, but it still sounds similar to the German name. So Wrocław and Breslau.
It's pronounced Wrocław.
Wrocław?
Wrocław.
Wrocław.
I guess it's fairly close to Breslau. I mean, it's got a good beat. You can dance to it.
All right. So Darren says he's doing the main battle, but using a revised Wellington's victory rules. Well, that sounds very cool.
Oh, yeah. My dad was up in the Yukon Territory during the Second World War in like 1943. They were building an extension off the Alaska, Canada, the Alcan Highway up to Whitehorse, I think. He said they were in the middle of nowhere. They worked 12-hour shifts, 9 days on, 1 day off. And he said, don't get excited about the 1 day off because you're still in the middle of nowhere.
Nowhere, yeah. There's no canteens and no dancing girls anywhere nearby, I'm sure.
There was nothing of any interest. He made my mom's engagement ring from a Canadian silver dollar and a hammer and an axe head.
Oh my gosh, that's kind of cool.
Kind of pound it. Of course, they were silver, so it was pretty soft. And he would just pound it around the edge of it until it started bowing out. And then he polished off the outside. The inside still had the Latin inscriptions of whatever, whatever the.
Well, you would have they would have been. I don't know if they would have been Latin, right? I mean, Canada at the time would have been. Well, you didn't have Queen Elizabeth. It's King.
Would have been one of the Georges, I guess.
Yeah, George the Third, I think, or George. No,
Oh,
no,
George
not
the
those.
Third.
Those guys. No, this would have been.
43, dude.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Unless it's a really old coin,
George
which case it's not. Yeah, no. Well, it's Edward the Seventh is the one who abdicates, and then it's brother.
Yeah, no, George the Sixth is probably what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Now, on your order battle, I noticed there's a couple of optional things. What are they? You got some optional hussars, it looks like.
Oh, well, let's read that.
And some optional grenadiers.
Oh, good. Let's sign up for that.
Yeah.
Are they in the order of battle? Yeah, we might need that. Let's see. Under the setup.
I'm looking at on the chart, the order of battle chart in the game. And
in the game. So for us, those are
units with components.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they can basically break down into smaller units that can then go into skirmish. So it's not like they're extra units.
All right. So the grenadiers are on, but how about those two under Haddock?
They're broken down into their smaller components.
Oh, those also. Okay.
Yep. So they can go into then cavalry skirmish mode. So if you look on the map, you'll see there, sort of west of Lobositz, you'll see a couple of skirmish markers. Those are over here.
Yep. Gotcha.
Yep. So that's the skirmish cavalry that's over there, those hussars. in skirmish mode.
What the heck do they do?
Well, Michael can tell you all about that when he tried charging them at Colon, and they just thumbed their noses and ran away.
Yeah, they're miserable.
Yeah, they make a fantastic screen.
They do, because it's like you have to charge them to make them go away, and then they just go away. But
And then come back.
you're just wearing your guys out, and they're just kind of dancing away from you. It's
Yep.
miserable.
They are as close to Cossacks as we can get in this particular
Yep.
one. So,
All right, I have found the Latin inscription.
what
It
does
would
it
have
say?
said Georgicus 6, Latin
Mhm.
6, of course, DG Rex, which means, I think, by the grace of God, King,
Yes.
and Emperor of India. So it's et ind imp. So
Wow.
it's all very heavily abbreviated, as most Latin inscriptions actually were. So
Right.
DG Rex et ind imp.
Hmm.
And you could still ever so faintly see that if she took her engagement ring off and you looked at it, you could just barely see some of those letters still.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I actually have a Hussar unit there that can break down into those skirmishers also. Okay, I better read up on them.
Well, then maybe your skirmishers and our skirmishers should have a hot date.
Yep, maybe they
There
might.
you go.
We'll see how that works. I have to step away for just a moment. I will be right back.
All right.
All right. There are causeway hexes. I guess the causeway. Causeways, earthen berm constructed to allow roads to cross the boggy areas surrounding streams along the top of dams that formed the seasonal carp ponds. I guess you have to be in road column. Treat causeways as a road hex. Combat
So
units not.
3613 is an example of one of those. 3613 on the south board. Oh, I see it. Okay, it's right by that village at the bottom of the map.
Yep. Oh, yeah. And there looks
Yeah.
like there's one maybe here along the south part of the Tiergarten.
Yes, it looks like, and then one even further south on the south near the south map edge,
over here.
right there. Yep. And I don't know if I see any others.
Nope. Everything else looks like it's pretty standard roads and
Right.
bridges across the.
Then there's a bit of sunken road just south of Lobositz that you're
Yep.
you got some Grenzers in, it looks like.
Yep.
And yeah, that looks like about it. Marsh is pretty awful, like it seems like it would be. Okay.
All right. Well, it looks like
I'm
David's got his people mostly deployed.
Okay, good. Good.
One thing I did want to look at just let's see, on independence unit in hex. All right, so it doesn't say. All right, so I'm gonna have to read up on those skirmishers. I got to read all the special rules here and just see what's going on.
Is this guy how you want him, David?
I don't know. Is he?
Well, I don't know. It's just because he's facing a hex side.
Oh, that's the way he was set up on the thing. So.
Oh, well, I'm just. I mean, I don't. That terrain certainly doesn't require it. So I was just.
Yeah. So it
I'd
looks like So David, it looks like that Hussar, the Zek Eli Hussars can break down and reform. It has a parent unit and two component units marked A and B. The component units are skirmish only. Hussars Light cavalry may retreat before combat when attacked by any unit other than light cavalry. Cavalry skirmishers may retreat before close combat when attacked by any units. So if he's in his current form and he's attacked by a cuirassier or a dragoon or whatever else, he can run away. But if he's in skirmish formation, he can run away from any unit. Although we don't have a lot of light cavalry on this
Oh,
map at all.
no,
It's
in fact, I don't think I have any down here.
yeah. I mean, it looks like the Prussians only have that one hussar unit, and everything else looks like it's all dragoons and cuirassiers.
Crazy.
And I've only got those 2 hussar units that have broken down into skirmishers, and then
Right.
it looks like all I've got is dragoons and cuirassiers.
Yeah.
And your stuff is presumably, yeah, it looks like yours is all dragoons and cuirassiers to boot. Yeah. Yeah, so we don't have any light cavalry really. So it's not like what we had at Kolin or Prague where we had, you
Right.
know,
Swarms
Seydlitz
of
or whatever else with his beautiful
Yeah.
cavalry there.
Yeah, Zeton.
Zeton, yeah, Zeton had all that lovely stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Are we ready? And just, I mean, it's already 10 o'clock. So
We're ready to hit the save button.
that's a smart move.
Yeah, yeah. So I think we have sufficiently set things up. And
I'm going to put this here. No, I'm not going to put this here. I'm going to put it here. And
all right, so we're set up and ready to play.
okay, that's good.
Yeah. And yeah, and then I guess between now and next week, then we can read up on anything about the units we need to kind of brush up on.
Yeah, you're right. We
And then
probably
we'll
get
start to
ready.
play and launch right into things
Okay.
and see how exciting things can be.
Well, this should be fun. I mean, this is a kind of a very manageable scale battle,
Oh yeah,
and kind of just an interesting tactical situation because you've got a temporary. I mean, the Prussians have a temporary numerical advantage until I can bring up my troops.
right.
So can you press that home and make it worth your while? So yeah, I mean, this will be fun. So I'm looking forward to that. Um, I don't know if you want to just kind of discuss the playtesting we did on Quebec today before we sign off.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Yeah, I'm sure people would like to know. Let's see. Let's
So
catch up on some of the different comments here. So,
okay,
let's see. So Matt says there are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who got mail for gold. Yes. So I guess that's talking about your father making the
time up at
ring.
the
Yeah. And
yeah.
William says yes, it's George the Sixth. And
There we go.
then Matt says the Arctic trails have their secret tales. What would make your blood run cold? Obviously,
Ah,
he's quoting some sort of poem there.
yeah, I was gonna say it's
Yeah,
either that or
he
it is a
says
poem.
I love the Yukon. There you go. Darren
It was
says
my
Eric.
Yukon reference.
Okay.
That's the cremation of Sam McGee
Oh, there we
because
go.
they were mushing the Dawson Trail.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry, it was total non sequitur.
No, that's
Nope,
fine. I think it's fantastic.
no
Yeah, I
problem
can
at
tell
all.
that it was some sort of poetic thing, but I'd never read it, so it's all right. I can quote poetry too, but it's mostly stuff for little kids that
Or limericks,
yeah, or limericks, yes.
Yeah.
So let's see.
Okay.
Darren says, Eric, I see you nap gaming so much online. Didn't notice the date on this battle. And then, yes, Darren writes Robert Service, which must be the quote or where that poem comes from. Okay, cool. So we caught up on that. So fill us in on what's been going on with the battles of Quebec.
Okay, so Paul and John and Albert all came over today, and I asked if Paul wanted to, we would just keep going on a solo playtest game I had been playing.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Sure, okay, why not?" Right? And then Albert and John just started fresh. And this was scenario 2, so this is the scenario where Montcalm isn't required to behave historically.
Okay.
In other words, maybe don't just attack right away. Um, but Montcalm actually had more troops, but a lot of them were militia compared to the British, who had all regulars, but not quite so many of them.
Right.
And Montcalm kind of didn't really wait for all of his numbers to manifest themselves. And I really had that problem in this solo game I was playing, because I actually went to the you have to roll for reinforcement entry for the French.
Right.
And I managed to stretch out the gap between two of the reinforcement groups by 3 hours and 20 minutes because I kept rolling so badly.
Right.
And it's one of those things where every turn you fail, it gets easier in the next turn.
Right.
But if you keep rolling badly enough, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So
I think you
anyway,
told me it was a 1 in 10,000 or something, a
it was
chance that.
4 chances in 10,000 to roll as badly as I did.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that was pretty unimpressive. So so then in my solo game, the idea was the British thought, you know what? He's so outnumbered. I'm going to go try to take him on right now. And then they rolled really badly. I mean, just astonishingly badly. And the French militia did a pretty good job as a skirmish line of chewing up a lot of the British regulars.
Right.
Then I got some reinforcements on, and now I'm playing against Paul. Um, I, I finally kind of in a situation where my artillery has shown up, and I'm really starting to pound the heck out of the right wing of his regulars. And I finally think, you know what? Let's go in. So I send in my regulars. 3 hexes of them attack 3 hexes of British regulars. The British regulars are totally frazzled, and my guys are fresh.
Right.
And that did me almost no good at all. Because even though the first British stack was shaken in their defender morale check,
Right.
I still managed to become shaken from the defensive fire and then end up routing away.
Wow.
The second guy comes up and gets shaken by the defensive fire and ends up routing away. And the third one manages to plunge on through. But now, of course, he's alone and in the middle of the British line.
Right.
And it's like, okay, that didn't really work how I expected it. I've still got a few regulars left, but I don't think I'm starting to rack up some losses, and I'm now at +3 army morale. So that's kind of not. It's not great. It's not the end of the world, but my morales aren't good in the first place.
Right.
So anyway, we've had a good time with that, and I think we only found one rule thing to talk about with Matthew, and of course we're playtesting, so
Right.
that's why we're doing it. Um, Albert and John started from the very beginning, and this is a battle that starts at, or a scenario that starts at 4 o'clock in the morning with the very first British troops landing on the shores of the St. Lawrence River.
Okay.
Um, and so at the beginning, there are hardly any units on the board. So you can actually blast through those first few turns pretty quick. And so now I think they're up to like 9 o'clock or something. And his English, John Minnick's English, are a lot smarter than mine because they are not taking the bait. Albert's French reinforcements showed up a lot faster. And
Okay.
so he is just sitting back on the corner of the Plains of Abraham and just saying, yep, come get me, Frenchmen. Because the way the victory conditions work is the French have to get the British to a +20 army morale level or the British win.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the French have the positive requirement to make something happen. in order to prevent a siege of Quebec.
Right.
So anyway, it's interesting because there's a combination of the French reinforcements being so variable can really make the game different from one play to the next. And I don't know if those guys there's an optional rule where the British forces landing have a chance of not landing at the right hex, which can cause just kind of bedlam because I mean, again, it's 4 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
It's dark for the first hour or so, hour or two. And so it'd be easy for boats to land in the wrong place in the middle of the night, right?
Sure.
So, so I think that's going to be a fun scenario for just giving you lots of choices. And because I think it lasts 13 hours, you've got lots of choices as far as tempo. You know, if the French reinforcements are taking a long time to show up, maybe Montcalm waits.
Right.
Or like what happened here, the French reinforcements didn't show up and the British decided to attack, even though literally they didn't need to. They just figured that, hey, as long as we've got numbers on our side, we should go ahead and try to take the battle to the French.
Right.
It just didn't work out very well for them, but that's why we play, right?
Yeah. No, that
So
sounds great.
it looks like an interesting one, and we're looking forward to continuing. We left the two games set up, and we're going to get together on President's Day in 2 weeks' time and finish these up. So
Cool.
anyway, just want
Well,
to give you a little
definitely
update.
post some stuff to the Facebook page.
Yeah,
because that would be
a good way
nice to see some stuff. Yeah.
to-
William Arend says, so he has a couple of things. He says, I loved listening to Gene Shepard recite Robert's service on his radio show from WOR, New York, in the 1960s and 70s. And then he writes, which Quebec game are you playing? I'm considering getting Quebec 1759 from Columbia Games, a block
Columbia
game with a
block
simple design.
Right. So this is actually an unpublished title in the Bar series. It's the same series we're playing right here. So I think it'll be volume 10. I think that's right. Of the Bar series, and it will have 3 battles. There'll be, I think, a total of 7 scenarios, but 3 battles. One is Plains of Abraham, 1759. So the same battle that you were thinking about with Quebec, 1759. There's also Saint-Foy, which was on the same ground, but the following year, after the British have taken Quebec, and now the French are trying to take it back. And then the last battle is the Americans trying to take Quebec in a raging snowstorm during the American Revolution. So we're just playing the first 2 scenarios thus far in our play testing. So just Plains of Abraham, so 1759. And I don't know when the game will be published, but that's why we play test, to make sure that it is real good when it's actually released. Hope that helps answer the question.
Very good. All right. Well, it sounds like fun. For everyone who is tuning in, welcome. We did our setup of Lobositz, and next week we'll get started with it. And you guys can then tune in and see all the exciting action as people get shot up and or not shot up, depending on it depends on who's rolling the dice, I guess. So until then, everybody will say farewell. I will end the live stream here, and that will be that.